Hi crafters, Raquel here with Paints and Glitter. I'm coming along again, and this is the second video that I am making using the Fairy Tale Tower die set from Tonic Studios. This is one of the create and make dies that you can get from Tonic Studios, and this has just been released. This does come with a total of 20 dies that you can use, and some of them are here. The others are all on my table, so the ones that I'm going to be using today are the little vine that you can use, the little flowers, with the exception of the centers, because that die there will cut the centers out. Then there's this little piece here that will cut out grass. I'll be using that. And you can tell that there are other pieces here. So of course, I'm going to show you just really quickly what I made for my first video. And for that one, of course, I did make the towers. But for this video, what I'm going to do is actually to make a card with you, and it's going to be a Shabby Chic style. And here, by the way, is the little window that I'll be using today. So if you can tell here, there are two dies. This one does not cut an edge. This one does, but it also cuts out a singular piece like this. So there's that. There's both of them used together will cut out this style of window. And I'm also going to be using this stencil, which I had used in the previous video as well. This time around, I'm just going to use it a little bit differently. And it's a really cute set, so if you're wondering whether or not it's worthwhile, then let me show you what I made in the previous video. And it's going to be a little bit difficult to show, but here is the towers that I made, Fairy Tale Towers, and I did avail myself of the die set that made the twirling teacups to make the base. However, you could just make a base using any simple die that you may have, repeated several times. And what I did was that I covered the top center there with a little octagon to secure it, otherwise would have been open in the middle there. And then what I did is that I added magnets to the bottom. So let me show you that in case you haven't seen that video. So right there, there's a magnet hidden underneath. And then I hid another matching magnet underneath this piece here. So it's covered with that pretty paper. And then the little towers do open. They are boxes, so they're fully functional. And of course you can put a little tea light inside, which I intend on doing because I did add vellum behind the little windows, and then that way it'll have a really pretty glow when you light those up. And of course that's just an added little bonus that if you want to give to a recipient, if you're creating a gift, then you can add the little tea lights as part of the gift, and so that way whatever they take out of the little boxes, they can then substitute with the tea light and still have a really beautiful presentation on a table, or maybe a little nightstand. Just super cute. So in that video tutorial, I do show you how to create these top pieces, because this is not part of the die. That was just done by using a little bit of math. So today, let's make a 5x7 card. I am going to be adding this little fairy girl. She happens to be from Renee Bouquets, and I used to be on her design team, and I still have quite a bit of pieces from her store, and I find them to be absolutely adorable for Shabby Chic, so why not? So here are the little windows. I'm going to start there. What I did was that I cut them out using the dies that I shared with you. Then I adhered them onto this vellum that I had sprayed using a Nuvo sparkle spray, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was a sparkle spray. So what I did was that I dipped my paintbrush into the sparkle spray and I brushed it onto vellum. And that's it. And now I'm going to just fussy cut around this. So it's super easy. And this is going to be, I think the title of this video is using your leftover card to create a Shabby Chic card. And that's so that you can see how, you know, when you're creating 3D projects, you tend to cut out quite a few pieces. At least I do. I always end up with leftovers. And so it's great to go ahead and use those leftover pieces of paper. In fact, this is what I did here. These papers are from Tonic Studios as well. And they came in a little paper pack of double-sided I think it's a spring theme paper, and they're really cute. They do have little patterns on them, but they're so subtle that they're wonderful for just little details. In fact, here's the little grass that I cut out, and you can see there, it's the same pattern, in fact, that I had used for the little roof here. So it's the same paper. I'm just using the little leftover bits there. And what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to take these little windows and I'm actually going to adhere them onto the same die cut, only this time I did cut it out of 300 GSM card, and that's going to give this a bit of stability. So I'm just going to take a little very thin line of adhesive now, and of course you can cut this into a different shape instead of using that background piece, and that could give you the little windows into maybe a larger shape. So you can experiment with the dies and kind of mix and match and see what you like. Okay, so now I have a nice sturdy little window there, and that's what I had already done with this one. I have the two pieces here that will actually match the outer rim there if I want to use that. And then here are all my little flowers. I did use leftover Tonic Studios card, and I don't know, I believe this is Arctic Blue. I can't remember at the moment. And then this is a specialty card that I had used in the previous video as well for one of the little rooftops. And then here are the pieces that I cut down for the base of the card. And these are also meant to create the tower. I just cut this piece out 4 times, twice in the 300 GSM, 2 more times in this beautiful card, and then I just cut this piece down. And what I'm going to do now is just start playing around with this to assemble it. So the first thing that I want to do is, because of the size of my card, I'm actually going to join this together in the center. I'm going to start there, and that's going to help me have one large panel here that I then can use for the background of my card. Okay, so this is going to go on the background. In fact, this is the envelope. Here's the card blank. So these come in 5x7, and these happen to be in ivory. So I'm just going to use one of these. Planning a card on an envelope. Okay, so here's my base, and I suppose I could have made this a little bit wider, but that's okay. It's going to give me a little bit of a border there. So here I'm going to layer these on top. And what I'm going to do is, of course, join these in the center as well. Now, you could play around a little bit, and because this does have a 1/4 inch little piece here, you could, if you wanted to, adhere it to the side of a page and create kind of like, you know, a little door or hinge, that sort of thing. I'm not going to be doing that today, however. I'm just going to join these together, and these two are going to go right here in the center. So if you haven't seen the 3D version of this, of course, I encourage you to watch that video. It comes together quite easily once you have all of your little pieces put together. So that's always encouraging to know that there's a die set that's really easy to put together, not complicated in any way. And now what I was thinking is that before I adhere this onto the base, this is where I want to have a little bit of fun with this stencil. And again, because I'm creating this in a shabby chic style, then I don't have to, you know, color the entire thing, but I am going to take a small brush, and these are available from Nuvo, and that's also from Tonic Studios. And I'm going to just take some really light ink. This happens to be a Catherine Pooler ink, and it's called It's a Boy, and it's a really pretty blue. So I'm just going to load my brush a tiny little bit, just barely there, and I'm only going to add a little ink here and there. I'm not going to go for a full-on background, just here and there. And of course it's going to look pretty strong initially because I don't have anything else on top. But I'm just going to pounce it like that. And then that's it. It's going to be super, super subtle. You might not even be able to see it much in the video. But now I'm just going to take what's left over on this brush. And I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a shadow on the edge. And that's just going to go all the way around. Okay, so now you're really going to be able to see that. And it is a different blue than this. This is more of a cornflower blue. So what I can do now is that I can actually layer a different color on top of that. And for the blue mineral from Tonic Studios, and this is a hybrid ink. I'm going to pick it up with the same brush because I'm not concerned about contaminating that, quite honestly. And this being a hybrid ink, of course, is, you know, it's a different formulation than a water-based ink. So you can emboss with this if you want to, which I think I might do that in just some little corners. And go ahead and heat emboss this a tiny bit. So I'm going to use this kind of in the middle here. I'm picking up a very light amount. So this is going to take away kind of that stark ivory color a little bit. Okay, so there's that. And I'm going to take some, this is called frontage. And that's because I'm doing, you know, a shabby chic technique on here. It's a hybrid ink. So I'm just going to kind of touch this up in certain little corners here and there, so that I know that it's wet. And that's where I'm going to apply this embossing enamel. And I say enamel because it is an enamel. It's not just an embossing powder. And this is going to give me that shabby effect that I'm looking for. And it's a little chunky and it's a little glittery and it's a mix of everything. And of course you can make your own. Just, you would have to buy different kinds of embossing powders and just mix them together and then add some glitter to the mix, but it would have to be an ultra fine glitter. Okay, so here are the results of the heat embossing. It's sparkly and it's got different textures. Hopefully you can see that, especially right there. And so I'm going to set this aside for a moment. And now I have a 5x7 piece of vellum, and I'm going to be using that as my base layer. So the first thing I'm going to do to this is that I'm actually going to take some embellishment mousse, and because I'm going with the blues, that I'm going to actually take some Nuvo embellishment mousse in aquamarine, and I'm just going to take a little spatula and just grab a little bit of that. Don't need a whole lot of it. And I'm just going to use this kind of around the edges because this is going to be my first layer, and it's really not going to, you're not going to see anything other than the edges. So just move this around as I see fit. But I have to make sure I put enough on here that you can actually make out a pattern. So it's always a lot of fun to do. Use up your Nuvo supplies. Have fun with them. Don't be intimidated by using all of them on one project. I find that the more I use them, the more I enjoy them. It's therapeutic to just get your hands messy and use all of this fun stuff. It comes in every color that all of the Craft Perfect papers come in. So if you're the type of person that loves to match your projects, but you maybe don't buy very many colors, if you find that you do have a favorite color, then my suggestion is to pick up an embellishment mousse in that color, and then that way you can apply that color to as many papers as you like. So will expand your library of colors, because you can just brush this onto any color paper and have that beautiful pearlescent finish. And you can be neat about it, or you can be messy. It doesn't really matter. There are no rules so long as you're enjoying it. So I'm gonna do this and one more little place over here like that. So as you can tell, I've got all of my little texture there, and I didn't need to use a whole lot. What you want to make sure you do is that you cover this up very nicely. So keep the foil on there if you can, so that way it doesn't dry out, because it is water-based. Now I have my vellum nice and dry, and that only took about 2 seconds to dry off. I'm going to take this adhesive runner from Tonic Studios, and I'm going to adhere this right around the center. And this does come in 2 different sizes, in case you're curious about that. But I'm going to only adhere that portion because, again, this is going to be layered, so the outer edge is what's truly going to be visible. And that's going to work out really great. I'm going to cover that up. Okay, so now I can go ahead and start layering the other pieces that I have here. Place adhesive along this bottom edge here. So I can place these 2 together. And then I'm going to place these 2 like so. And I'm going to estimate the height of that according to how much room I want to leave around the edge of my card here. And that looks right. Okay. So on to this, of course, before I adhere it, I kind of want to gauge where I want my little windows. I find it to be so beautiful. And this doesn't have to be so precise either. It doesn't mean that you can't change the height or, you know, all that good stuff, because this is just meant to be, you know, an artistic expression. So no need to take things too literally when you're card making, just so you know. So I'm going to, I think, apply my little windows here. I think I kind of like that height. And I have my little girl here. She's going to go dead center there, or in the center is what I should be saying. And then she's going to have little flowers around her. But then I have these little pieces of the vine that I had mentioned earlier. And I think I'm going to add these kind of on the corner here and there. I've got these little pieces here. And I think I like the way that that looks. Okay. It all comes together in the end. And I think this little guy can go right in the center. And this one. These pieces. I'm going to start down here. On here, if you like, you can also place a dimensional adhesive if that's something that appeals to you for a little bit more depth. It would create a pretty shadow behind that as well. Oopsie. It's going to take a moment to dry. I really love the contrast of the shine in the vellum and that matte background. I think it's just so very pretty to see that. And then all the little twinkling of the glitter here and there. Okay, so I'm gonna add the little frame. So that little window. That's just another special little touch. And then this little one over here, down in this corner. Okay. Then my little vines, which I think I can cut down a little bit. That one can go up there. I'm now going to adhere this panel onto the back, and I am going to use dimensional adhesive for this. You can get these little squares from Tonic Studios, and they come in quite handy. There are larger ones. It's just, for some reason, when I've placed my orders, I keep forgetting to get the bigger ones. I don't know what's going on with me, but these work out quite well. And they are quite strong, just so you know. This is now going to go right on top, just like that. And there's that bit of shadow created by the vellum. And actually, you could just put a sentiment in the center and be done. It is so pretty just as it is. But of course, I want to make use of these lovely little flowers. What I'm going to do is place the darker ones first, because then I'm going to follow those up with these lighter ones that I have, and create a sort of little garden theme or scene here. I think this one goes here. Okay, so again, these are just little leftovers that otherwise could have gone to waste, but instead I went ahead and used my dies to create a pretty little card. And now I have the little girl who can be standing right here in the center of that garden. I'm now going to be stamping the sentiment for this, so I'm just going to take some Midnight Surf hybrid ink. And this is from a different stamp and die set. I'll list the name of it below because it's still available as far as I know. And it's just so pretty. So it says, "Know that you're appreciated." So I'm going to put that here. And I am going to sprinkle this with the embossing powder in Golden Egg. And this is also kind of shabby, so I'm going to see how that looks because I've not used it on script before. But we'll find out. Okay. Okay, so here's the little sentiment. I went ahead and heat embossed it, and then I cut it out with the little matching die from that particular set. And now I'm just going to adhere these together. I did take the little flower off that I had initially adhered on top. Now I'm just going to kind of stagger these little banners. I cut the second one out of vellum, as you can probably tell. And then I had these little pieces of ephemera that I thought were so super cute. These happen to be from Prima. And I just decided that I would add this here. And just going to add that to the top. And then add that little button. It looks so much like a real button that I just could not resist using that. And then I'm just going to put the little flower right on top, just like so. And I had these ephemera hearts that were from the same little paper collection. And I decided to add these here as well. And I did fold those in half just to give them a little bit of texture there, or body. And then that will mail flat, but it's just really sweet to find little details like that that you can add to a card. And then of course I have these little pearls, and I decided to go ahead and use those as the centers of my flowers here and there. And of course you could use Nuvo drops instead. So many different colors to choose from, and they're all absolutely beautiful. You can use antique drops, you can use pearlescent drops, you can use glitter drops. In fact, I have one here, and this is called Gold Coast, and I think I'm going to use this glitter drop just here and there, because why not? Just on the background there, just add a little more shine, because you know, can't have too much shine. And I can add it to the little hearts just a little bit. And this does have glitter inside of it, but it's just so subtle and very pretty. And cut this little piece down. I had thought to put it behind this one flower just to help it pop right here, instead of letting that go to waste. And I can go ahead and I'm going to find maybe a tiny little pearl and put it here. So that completes this card for now. I'm quite happy with it, and again, this is just using leftover pieces that otherwise would be sitting on my table, really. So I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a comment and a thumbs up if you like what you see. If you're new to my channel, of course, I welcome you to also subscribe for future tutorials. As I always say, I hope that you can be inspired and be blessed, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.